Got a 2012 Jeep JK Wrangler that I've had a problem with for, oh God, going on 7, 8 years now. And the problem is with the shifting mechanism, programming, whatever you want to call it. And I'll try to explain in just brief detail. Uh, Starting in 2012, and I think it went up through all of the JKs from 2012 up. It had a built-in system that I actually had to look up the name, ERS, Electronic Range Selector. A lot of people call it bump shift, auto shift, different things. It's not a true shifter in the sense that it shifts exactly, up and down when you tell it to. It just basically, according to the manual, the ERS system basically just sets the max gear that the transmission will shift into. So if you set it at third gear, it will shift no higher than third gear. If you set it at fourth, whatever. So you can set it up and down. I found it useful when going up steep hills, when it, to get it to drop a gear and go ahead and speed back up rather than have to punch the gas. I can just, bump it to the left and it'll drop down a gear. When I'm at the top of the hill, I can bump it back to the right, set it back to overdrive, and when it hits the right parameters, it'll shift into overdrive. It also works well with downhill assist. I found that out by accident going down a steep hill off-roading, that it will just shift right through the gears as it speeds up, and so you may want to limit it to first gear, and so that's how you do. You just bump it down to first gear. The problem I've been having for several years now is that the system will recognize bumps to the left or downshifts, but it will not bump back to the right. So if I'm driving and my dog accidentally kicks this thing down to a lower gear and I'm going down the interstate or whatever, I cannot get it back up. I may be in first gear doing who knows how fast, and the only way I can fix it quickly is to put it into neutral, put it back down into drive, and then it resets back. And I haven't tried it this morning. It's been very intermittent, but let's see if I can reproduce the problem. I'm pretty sure I can. So we start up the Jeep, and I don't know if this is going to be readable, but right now, and I hope you can hear me okay, I'm going to put it in drive with my foot on the brake, and you can see it shows overdrive. Now since I'm in basically gear 1, when I bump this to the left, you'll see it shows video, or I get a video and no sound. So let's try this again to explain excuse me, exactly how this problem is showing up. So I'm going to start the Jeep and put it in drive. Problem is mine is not recognizing bumps to the right intermittently. We'll see what happens. So it's at 1 now. If I bump to the right, nothing. Bump to the right, nothing. Bump to the right, nothing. Now if I keep trying it, there you go. Eventually I get a 2. Keep trying it. There's a 3. Okay, so see, it's kind of working. Back down to 1, 2, 3, 4. Overdrive. Okay. So it works intermittently. So what we're going to try to do is see if we can fix this. So after many years of not being able to figure out this problem, once a year, every now and then, I would go onto various forums and try to explain my issue, and most people got confused and thought I was talking about the transmission itself not shifting, which it shifts fine. I tore down into the center console several times, couldn't figure out anything to fix, couldn't really get any answers online from anybody, couldn't find anybody else that had the same problem, except maybe a few that said, I sprayed some compressed air and it fixed it. Well, that doesn't fix it, at least not for me. I wasn't sure what to buy until just recently someone said, you need a new shifter assembly. I had no idea this came as one unit, which this is what this is. This is out of a 2013. I went on eBay and there's a ton of them for about $100 a piece. So I figured worst case scenario, at least I can buy one to figure out how it comes out of the vehicle, and I could disassemble this some to see if I could figure out what causes the problem. So that's what I'm going to do, is show you how I think I found what the problem is before I tear into the Jeep to see if I can confirm that. So once you tear down in the Jeep and have this exposed in the center console, and I apologize, this isn't going to be the best recording, but you'll get the gist of it. This is what you're going to be dealing with. So the first thing you need to do is take this shifter knob off. What you can do is take a small screwdriver and stick it right here under this center cap and twist, and it pops down, which releases the tension on these lower clamping arms, and then you can just pull this right off and the whole arm comes off, or the whole knob comes off. Now you've got this cover that you want to unclip. There's just a few clips on either side. You can just unclip them. Let's see, I think I'm going to have to do this with a screwdriver because I'm not going to be able to get in there with anything else. There's one, there's two. This whole cover comes off. Next thing you've got is this slide piece, dust cover, I guess it is. It just slides right off as well. And then you have this white piece here that clips on as well in a few spots, if I can find it. White clips right here. So just push these white clips in. It pops up there. Now, almost pops up. There we go. There's one. And, oh, there's another at the front. On the other side here. There we go. Now, this whole cover comes off. Now, this is where I found what I can get into. There's a little module right here on the back that has 3 wires, a ground, a blue, and a yellow that runs into a plug. Unclip this plug. Come on. And then if you take your screwdriver, right here at the top, there's a little clip you push down. Push it down, and this whole assembly comes out. I'm going to stop the video to make sure my audio is still working, and I'll show you a little more detail on this right here. Okay, so I'm going to try to explain what I found when I did this. As soon as I pulled this out the other day, what I noticed is, this is basically, my understanding is what's controlling the recognition of the system, whether you're pushing your stick to the left or right. There's 2 little arms that stick out here, and the shifter sits right between them. And when you push it to the left, this whole thing slides to the left. When you push the stick to the right, this whole thing moves to the right. And I was trying to figure out, I knew there was I assumed black was ground, and then that depending on whether you push left or right, that it's sending a signal via the yellow or blue and completing a circuit and telling the system downstream. I could be totally getting this wrong, but that's what I'm guessing at this point. So I was trying to understand how this thing might work, and I realized that there's a black, normally this is slid in like this, but there's a black cap that comes off this whole thing. So I'm going to take this cover off. I think I've had too much coffee this morning. My hands are jittery. So this whole cover pops off. Come on. And really all you have in here is this little slide assembly that just slides out. There are some springs and pieces in here, so I'd be careful with that. And all that's left is a circuit board that you can slide out. And the circuit board has a little button on either side. And when you push them, you can't hear this on video, but there's a little click. So that tells me that when you're pushing this to the left or right, it's pushing one of these buttons, and you can see that it corresponds to the blue or yellow. And what I did to test that is I took my voltmeter here and I set it to continuity. I don't know if you can hear the beep, but there is a beep. And what I did is I clipped my alligator clips onto this lower terminal of these 3, the solder point, which I can see is the black, and I apologize, you're not going to be able to see this well, but I'm trying to explain it. Is I'm going to clip onto this lower solder piece, and then I'm going to take my positive. If I touch it to the left, which should correspond to the blue, so I'm going to touch it to the solder point. If I push the blue, I don't know if you can hear it, every time I push the button I get continuity of the blue. If I touch to the solder point of the yellow and push the little button on the right, I get continuity on the right. So I'm thinking that what's going on in my system is there's something wrong with this piece right here. At least that's my guess. I'm hoping that where it's located in the back of the assembly here, that I can get to it without having to take all of this out. I'm hoping I can get down, just pull this mechanism out, do the same test on the one in my Jeep, and either find that maybe this button has some intermittent problem, or maybe a solder joint came loose and is barely touching. So that's why sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But I'm going to take the one out of my Jeep, perform the same test on it, and see if I see anything visual, or see if I can duplicate the problem that it's having in the Jeep and get it to not show continuity when pushing this right button. I'm hoping that that's the problem, because if not, this plugs into the side of the unit here. Then there's a master plug that I obviously will assume runs somewhere else in the Jeep. If it's somewhere downstream from this, then I don't know. I'll have to do more digging, but I'm praying that the problem is somewhere in just this little device right here. So the next thing I'm going to do is try to record getting down to that piece in the Jeep. Wish me luck. So, hey Adrian, I won't bore you with the details because there's plenty of videos out there about how to remove the center console. I mean, in short, you pull the four-wheel drive knob off, you pull this knob off, and then this whole center piece that's over here just pops right out. You remove the few pieces that I talked about in the beginning. The only thing I missed is there's a white plug that plugs into the back of this to illuminate the numbers on the shifter down here. But basically, once all that was off, I was able to get to this module we were talking about. It pop it right out. I'll go over here and show you just real quick. I did some testing on this. This is the one out of my Jeep. Did some testing on it real quick, and I couldn't fully reproduce the problem, but I swear I back probed the, I hooked up my continuity just like before, and I swear there were a few times at first where I would push the right button and I would get no continuity. And then it kind of got better and better, and then I couldn't reproduce it again. And it seemed to be working. I don't know if something got in there somehow or if I was imagining things, but I really, after a while fiddling with it, couldn't find a problem. So I left it out. And what I did is I just popped the one from the used assembly in here just real quick. I popped it back in place, plugged it in, started up the Jeep, and it works. I think maybe it fixed. I've got it fixed now. While I've got this apart, I'm going to clean up some dog hair and crap and put it back together. But I think that's as far as I'm going to go, because fiddling with this thing before, where I didn't know what I was doing, and I was blowing compressed air in here, which probably did nothing. But when I fiddled with it enough, it got to where it would work. Over the past several years, it would work consistently for a day or two, and then it would stop again. That's what it seemed like. So it may be working now, and whatever's downstream, if it's something downstream causing the problem, may rear its head again. So I'm not going to post all this video together until I've put all this back together and had it this way for a couple weeks and test it out and see if the problem truly comes back, letting me know there's possibly something downstream. I don't think there's anything in this assembly that would be the cause of the problem except for this little left and right indicator switch. That I can't see any need for me to try to yank this out and put the used one back in. I can't see that would fix anything. It's either going to be a problem with this thing, or like I said, there's a master harness that runs out down here to the rest of the Jeep, a problem in that wiring somewhere. That'll take some more research. But for now, I'm going to cut this off and report back after a few weeks to see how this is working. I don't drive the Jeep a lot. I don't put many miles on it in a year, but usually when I tinkered with it before, it would have come back by now. So for now, I'm going ahead and marking this as done, and I wanted to stick this on the end of the video and get it out there in case this helps anybody else. I made a few quick notes on some things. When I did my initial testing to show how that circuit board works, I was probing on the back of the circuit board, but you'll notice in a later video when I was testing the one I took out of my Jeep, I was probing at the plug to see if there was a short somewhere in the full circuit, and I could not find anything. This whole thing plugs into a harness that runs up through the tunnel and up under the dash. I tried to see where that might go in case I ran into any other issues. I couldn't figure out where it went. I even did a 1 month subscription to ALLDATA to see if I could get a wiring diagram, and all that shows is that it just goes into, I think it's a full-time splice or whatever it calls it. There's really no easy way to get to it. So if the problem is somewhere else in the system, if it ever comes back, I'll track it down. Something to note, like I said, I found out by reading the manual, this is called an ERS, electronic range sensor. But if you try Googling that, you pretty much get nothing. No one calls it that. I didn't, I still don't. I only knew it was ERS because that's what's in the manual. Pretty much 9 times out of 10, if you're looking for something related to this mechanism, it seems like everybody calls it an auto stick more often than not. Coincidentally, when I was Googling that, I found an old forum post from years and years and years ago where somebody had explained that one of these little plastic tines had broken off on theirs and they were trying to fix it, but they never went into the detail of how to fix this. And wasn't having an issue at the time, so I didn't track it. And funny enough, I had even made a comment about this, how this system worked. And this was when I bought the Jeep back in late 2011, late 2011. So I didn't even remember seeing that post. I can't find any references online anywhere where you can just buy this little module that I replaced. Other people online, or that one post that I found said that they had called the dealer and you had to get the whole assembly. Of course, that was many years ago, where I don't even know if you can get this from the dealer anymore. Like I said, if you need to replace this, if you can go to a pick and pull and find this little module and yank it out, good for you. If not, like I said, you can find a ton of these whole assemblies on eBay for about $100 and just pull this little module out, swap it over, and you should be good to go. The only last thing I saw is that somebody had mentioned, and I didn't dig into this, mine's a 2012. It's when they first came out with this range selector. Somebody had commented that starting on the 2013s and up on the JKs, that it worked slightly different in how it worked. So it seems like the 2012 might be slightly different in functionality. Like I said, I got this out of a 2013, the module that I've swapped over. So I think that's more computer driven. You can get this from any JK year model, and you should be able to swap this over. But just let you know that the actual functionality, the way the computer or however it does the selection, that might be slightly different on the 2013s and up. Anyway, I hope that helps somebody in the future. I know I had a lot of trouble finding out the solution to this. And anyway, good luck, Godspeed.